Hey everyone. So I have some new toys in the house and I thought I would tell you about them before I have to put my floorboard back on because I need to do the turbo power comparison test, and I don't want the whirring drive shaft to catch on anything, so it's probably safer if I go ahead and put the floorboard back on. But if you've followed the channel or the newsletter, especially, you've heard me talk about this as one of the solutions coming in 2023. And I have the prototypes, and I actually was hoping to have the final version of it now. It's really surprising to me that one, these aren't already on the market. Like, you don't have a solution that actually fits in the existing spot as the traditional one. But two, it has been, well, maybe this is why, number one, is it's harder than I thought. Started working with the engineering team almost a year ago, and really all I was looking for is to have this as small enough that it goes into an existing hole and then have a snap ring groove. Well, it turns out the way these are built, it's actually tough to do that and keep it in a compact package. If you wanted to just extend it out, like, say for instance, let me show you, this is what a traditional, like Parker, this happens to be from Summit, but Parker, Faster, they all make them like this effectively. And one thing you could do is just put an extension on here that would made up to this end, and put the snap ring in. But as you can see, if you were to do something like that, you're going to be more than half or more than twice the distance out, and we don't have a whole lot of room to work with here. And in a lot of the applications you don't. On the third function, it's on the side, so space, of course, in the subcompact world is at a premium. With this one, we're still a little longer, but not a whole lot longer, so we've saved the space here. And not only do you have to save the space on that side, the plug is going to be a lot longer on the, well, from the traditional one. So I'll show you our plug, which we've skinnied down as much as possible, so it's going to be like this. And then a traditional plug is like this. So this actually is closer in overall length and size. I just couldn't make it any shorter, but we are saving some space. So overall, we get out to here. If you were to have done it with the tradition, with what's on the shelf today, it's probably going to be something like this. So as you can see, you're going to basically run out of room. And of course, you could drill out these holes and bring it back, but you're still out there pretty far. So enough about that. What are we solving for? The biggest thing that we're solving for is the fact that these are a real pain to take off. Well, that made it look easy, right? And to connect them in. They're just not very elegant. With, in the right spot, with the FlatFace, just easy to put off. And this one's a little harder because there's not enough room because of the one-way valve. But as you get in here, anybody can click these on. Pretty easy to do. You could actually do it one-handed. That is a big benefit. Now, other bigger possible benefit, at least in my point of view, is the fact that you don't have this huge cavity catching a bunch of dirt so you can put it into your hydraulic sump. That's obvious, but really, when you have this, something else you have to have is a big goofy plug that dangles down here, and we all try to manage them by putting them together, but they flop around, they get caught on things, we break them, they look like crap. So I don't want those at all. And because we don't have this big gaping hole in the front any longer, you don't need to plug that. This is a flat face, so simply just wipe it off with your thumb. These are spill proof. If you go with this one, you're going to lose maybe a teaspoon to a tablespoon of fluid, depending on exactly how it works. With this one, you basically lose, it's like 0.15 milliliters, what it's rated for. Now, there may be cases you lose a little bit more than that, or you don't lose any at all, but it's not going to be very much. Basically, what I do is just wipe it off and use it to moisturize my hands. Now, by not having that, not needing those dangly, crappy plugs, we do need a way to differentiate, and that's where we've integrated this rubber ring that is colored very similar. Now this is green, this on the tractor actually would be black. You can see the black here, but by doing that, we now know which one to plug in to where. So I think we're solving for all the big things that we need. And the biggest thing being just ease of use, right? Just pop it off and then put it back on one-handed. The last thing I'll mention is, well, some people may be thinking this, well, John Deere's going to a single point connector. Kubota's already went to a single point connector. That is true. I would argue that I like this solution better for two reasons. One, it's simpler, and these connectors, and these are 1/4 inch connectors, they will work anywhere. They'll work on your front third function, your implements on the front third function, even on the rear. But these aren't just going to come in 1/4 inch. We're going to bring them to the market in 3/8 and 1/2 inch. So your Power Beyond, your backhoe, any of the other rear implements will also be able to have these. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, well, I could have done that already, why would I do it now, especially on the rear for like Power Beyond? The reason you'll do it now, potentially, is I want to bring these to market at a price point that makes sense for people like us with these small tractors. Some of these connectors, if you go with Parker or Faster, well, they're actually, let me say this. There's one that from Parker that I know that will fit into this. It has just a small back end, and it actually is probably only as long as this. It actually, I was thinking to myself, like, why can't we just use this? And then I saw the price tag, and that's why we can't use this. For the female version of that coupler alone was $129, and it was $119 for the plug. So $250 for one quick coupler. Put them all together, you got a $1,000 bill to change out your loader quick couplers. Now, I mean, maybe that's not a lot of money to some people, but that's not good for me. And it actually is more than the single point quick connector that if you were to buy it in the aftermarket, that you would actually use. And it would do the same thing, and you could do it for $700. Now, again, I think this is, for me, a better solution, because if you have front third function implements, you want to add these as well. If you just have the loader, the single point might be the best solution. I don't like how all 4 of the hoses are together. I think it's harder to wield. Also, it kind of clutters up the side of the tractor here. That's not going to bother very many people. Bugs me, but most people get over that pretty easily. I like this better for those reasons, as well as this should be half the price for the loader to switch out these versus the quick connect. Hopefully, if I can get the price right, we could actually get 6, do your front third function and your loader for half or about half of what you can get the single point connector for the loader on. So that's why I think this is the solution to go with. I'm super excited about it. But let me also show you, well, one of the things that's holding me up. Let me show you this other one. Now, these are standard connectors, and they don't technically have a connect under pressure functionality. Connect under pressure functionality, what it essentially does, and you can see the difference in these right here, is it has a place inside to have pressure relief. But you also have a whole lot more length on it, because you have to have that extra place so that it does pressure relief. When I think about this, and definitely comment below on your thoughts, these will connect under a few hundred PSI. For most of us, a few hundred PSI is way more than you would ever really build whenever you just take your implement off and just let it sit there. So I'm going to do a quick demo before I get out of here, but I'd love to hear your comments on whether or not you think having the connect under pressure functionality is actually better than, I got dog hair everywhere. Look at this dog, sorry. Having connect under pressure is better than having this traditional, based on what you're about to see. Now, one thing I'll say before we get into connect under pressure, this doesn't necessarily mean that you can just put this on like a toddler could put it on. I'll show you what functionality you get with the connect under pressure. So let me get everything ready and I'll show you how this works. Okay, I've got the loader here. Don't judge me for the mess I've got. And the loader doesn't have anything on it. It's just the loader by itself, no bucket, no forks. But I've raised it up, and on this particular gauge, it's an analog gauge, of course, this first mark represents 200 psi. It starts basically at 100 because it just doesn't register on this scale at the 5000 psi. So we're going to call this 200 psi, and we'll do a similar version with the FlatFace connectors. But as you can see here, we've got the tradition, and this is connected to the blue line because that's the lift circuit on the loader. And so when you've got pressure on it, you can make the mistake of just unhooking it, right? It'll actually blow it out, and you know, you've got pressure stuck in this line. When you go to reconnect it, of course, you have to get your other hand here, pull back on this, which is a pain, and then best you can, if I can get the best, try to push this in. And if you're really strong, you might get it under 200 psi. Yeah. Okay. Can't get it in there. I mean, even like, they're so janky, sorry, that they get hung up inside. So, and this isn't like OJ putting the glove on here. I'm really trying to get this thing in. And you know, maybe I'm just not strong enough, but like, the other thing about this is you can't get leverage like right here. This is like the worst part of having leverage. Now, if I could only use one hand, I didn't have to pull this back. I could get over to this side and probably push hard enough to actually connect this on, but I have to have somebody else holding this back so that I can do that. So that's, I think most people agree, if you were to pop this off with the loader up in the air, you probably aren't going to get that on. The only way to get it on, there is a tool for this. I've never used it, but what I use actually is, and I'm not going to do it here because my loader's too high, but I basically take my, good grief, look at this dog here, take my pliers and I push down on this and relieve that pressure. And that's probably not good for the coupler, but that's how I get it on because usually I'm cussing by that point. So let me, I'm gonna leak this out. I'm gonna swap this out for the one, and we'll do the same test. Okay, I put the jack on. I just jacked up the loader enough so that I could put this on. Now this is the connect under pressure version of the plug. So on quick couplers, plug, and then the connector. And so as you can see, we're basically at the same pressure. I realize this is an analog gauge, but the loader's virtually in the same place, so it should be about the same pressure regardless of what that pressure is. I wasn't able to connect it with the traditional approach. Now with the connect under pressure, again, it's not necessarily going to be a whole lot, well, it's definitely going to be easier, but part of what makes it easier is, and notice this, when I go and align it to the front, I'm able to, because of the relief that's in here, the pressure is kind of being held back here when this closes off. I don't know exactly how everything works internally, but I'm able to get it started here very simply. That's basically no pressure at all. And then, go ahead and push. Oh, hang on. Push it on. Now, that was still a little bit hard to push on because I'm also over here in a funny spot. Let me get over here. Like I mentioned, I since I don't have to hold this back, it's already holding itself back. I can, if I need to, I can grab onto something like this and push it on. Now, these are also very awkward. But, like I said, the big benefit, I would say, of the connect under pressure, hang on, I got misaligned, is that you can get it started and then go ahead and push it on. Now, if you're familiar with connect under pressure, they're supposed to work up to, depending on which one you have, it could work up to 5000 psi, but that doesn't mean you can just walk over like on this and say if it's 5000 psi, you can just go in with 2 fingers and grab it like this and just connect it. They actually make things that pull them on, but they're able to connect. So that's the connect under pressure. The big benefit, I would say, is you can actually get it started. Let me jump over to the traditional plug and I'll show you this one. All right, we've got this, I'll call it the standard plug that has some ability to connect. It definitely has the connect under pressure capability. What it doesn't have is that reservoir, like I said here, that basically gives it some pressure relief. And here's the big difference. When you go to here, with this has pressure in it, you can't just push it in like we did on the other one. If you remember, it basically went in to this point with no resistance, and then uh, we could go ahead and push it on. Now this one I would say is basically just as hard or just as easy, I don't know how you want to say it, to put on, but to align it is a lot tougher because you've got pressure immediately. But if I go ahead and push, I can connect it. That's under 200 psi. As you get higher in the psi, it's going to get harder, obviously, to connect this. But again, I like the fact that it is shorter, and I'm leaning towards, and it's less complex, it's less costly. I'm leaning towards going with this approach for the most part, maybe offering the connect under pressure, but maybe this being really the main uh, product, I would say, because you know, think about it. You take your loader off, it sits there for a while. Say it gets hot, whatever. I don't. I have to do more testing. I don't think it's going to build 200 psi. Now that I have these, I can do some of that testing. But before, it didn't seem like it mattered how much pressure it built. Like if it built 10 psi, I wasn't able to connect it. With this one, I know with 200 psi. Actually, I'm going to start it. Start. We can get, that's about 300 psi, and that's really all I can get without like going way up, because but this would be kind of residual pressure that the loader is putting on itself. And so we'll pull this off. I know for sure, and I can tell that popped out, you know, a lot more forcefully. But even with this standard plug, see if it will do this. I think if I get leverage here, we'll see. Hang on. Biggest problem is actually alignment. Come on. Oh yeah. Huh. Actually, this is easier than I thought. So if I wasn't trying to stay out of the way of the camera, it would be a whole lot easier. But that's 300 psi. I feel very confident you're not going to build 300. And it is harder. But because I don't have to hold on to this and be on like this, and I can be like this, I can shove that in. Probably do it with more, but I don't have a good way to do it. So more to come on this. I just want to give you a sneak peek. I'm going to do some tests. I'm going to put it under pressure, or I'm going to let the loader build its own pressure, put it out in the heat, put it in a funky position, and I'm going to see how hard it is, and I'll report back. But you guys tell me, you know, based on what you're seeing here, do you think it's worth the extra cost and complexity to go with the connect under pressure? And again, my biggest concern is really the length, not so much the cost and complexity. We can work on that. But these are going to probably be more durable because they have less moving parts and they meet the length requirement. That's it for today. Questions, comments, leave them below. Thanks for watching.